Welcome to this episode of the Climb Podcast. My guest is Brett Olivier, Senior Admin for Risen Esports. Risen is an amateur league focused on community development of players of all skill ranges in League of Legends and Valorant. Through Discord, Twitch, and Twitter, they have followings of 6,000, 2,600, and 1,500. My talk with Brett today focused around the path Risen Esports has taken to be in the position they are today and how the changes to League of Legends Academy and amateur system affects their league. I hope you enjoy listening to the podcast, and be sure to give Brett and Risen Esports a follow at The Bestron and Risen Esports NA on Twitter. Links are in the description below. Before that, I know I was trying to look through the old Lafayette Smash PM matches just to see. Just to go down memory lane just a little bit. It's crazy how that's like 5-6 years ago now. I feel
it was, but it's also like where a lot of us got our starts, like in esports or in this or that. You know, I watched a video on Absol, and it was the same for him.
Right.
Where he first started out with the Smash scene, learned about production and stuff like that.
It's crazy how it, I guess, brings us all together. I know you've definitely taken a leap forward with Risen Esports. You're the senior admin for it. So what does that entail?
I wouldn't say I'm the senior admin. It's kind of just
or the title, I guess.
Yeah, it's just I've been working as an admin as long as anybody else other than Travis, who is the creator, owner, president, whatever. So Risen is 3 years old. What year? Losing track of time.
It started in 2017, so
I'm pretty sure it was 2017. And originally it was just this guy, Travis. And he had played in a similar amateur league with some of his friends and basically said, like, hey, I can do this but better, or I want to do this. And that's how Risen was born, with just him and his roommates and his friends. And it was a mess, but it kind of worked. They ran their first season, and we operate in seasons kind of modeled similar to professional league, Riot's LCS, where you get a match every week for 6 to 10 weeks, and then a little mini playoff format. And that's kind of what we call a season. And then we take a break before the next one. But anyway, the first season went kind of well, and I originally came in as a player. I didn't know Travis or anybody in Risen beforehand, but one of my friends who I played League with saw the Reddit post, hey, let's go do this. And then we ended up playing, had a really great time, and this community started to form in the Discord, which has kind of been the life of Risen, is that Discord community. After a season, Travis still wanted to keep doing it. We wanted more, so they made some changes in the admins and staff, and that's where I came in. And I think the only other current admin would be Rando Joe, who does our streams and production. He came in about the same time, and we just slowly kind of made it into a more organized, more fluid, more functioning league and community. Just kind of like season by season, learning from our mistakes, adding new passionate people to the admin team or the staff team.
So the league itself is primarily built through volunteer work, correct? I've read some of, I guess, the Twitter. I think I looked through Travis's Twitter. I guess I looked through yours a little bit, and a lot of you guys have to deal with working full-time jobs, like on top of running the league, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, none of us do this. It's not profitable. Well, it's not currently like operating for profit or even sustaining our admin staff financially at all. And so yeah, for all of us, it's kind of the side gig. It's what we do in our spare time when we get home. It used to be easier when we started 2 years ago, even last year, when a lot of us were still college students. I just graduated a little over a year ago, and it's a lot easier to manage when you can sit on your PC all day in between assignments, in between classes, and be a lot more involved. But as we've kind of grown and our personnel have moved into, moved on, not moved on, but like coming to more real life work. It's harder to manage, and it's demanding to kind of give up most of your free time to something that used to just be easy to do, between classes whenever.
Definitely. I guess we'll talk about it's crazy coincidental timing. I guess whenever I contacted you, so I typically do prep work for my podcast episode 2 days beforehand, and I had to throw out the entire script yesterday because of the different changes, the complete overhaul to the academy and amateur formats.
Yeah, that's big news. That's big.
So to give, I guess, everyone that's listening, I guess a slight history. The last year for 2020 for the Face It scouting grounds. So they're different tiers, right? So you have your tier 1 of your amateur league, which that would be like Challengers Uprising, LWL, Big League, and Upsurge Premier League. And then I know you guys at Risen or as tier 2, or for what I can find through the Face It blogs. And then Focus Championship Series was also tier 2. What determines the tiers for amateur league?
So it was a little different last go round. Our first season working with Riot and what it is, it's basically using these homegrown grassroots style tournaments and leagues to identify the best amateur players, the best amateur teams. So there's a handful of these leagues like Risen, where teams compete, earn prize money, earn points, and then qualify for like the official Riot event where they get to show their stuff and hopefully get picked up by professional teams. But last season was the first season we got the chance to work as a partnered league. And from what I remember, it was based a lot off of potential prizing. So the tier 1 events were the ones that had greater like entry fees, greater prize money paid out, obviously more viewers, a little bit better production. And tier 2, I don't think we had tier 3 last go around, but tier 2 kind of filled in as the next few names like Risen and Focus. And this upcoming, I guess you would call it a season. The next scouting rounds format that they're going with, they're changing it up a little bit to where tier 1 tournaments are going to be, or tier 1 organizations are going to be more closely partnered with Riot in something along the lines of profit sharing or like running real life events. And it's really, really cool to see that leagues and organizations just like ours are starting to get the chance to be recognized and worked with to this extent with Riot, which is kind of like the end goal for a lot of us. And tier 2 and below is going to continue to be like these online leagues for qualification points. So I think for us, it's going to be pretty similar to what it was last season. But the changes to these tier 1 events gives us a new set of challenges, or a new goal to challenge ourselves with. Is like, okay, now that tier 1 is such a big deal, how do we put ourselves in a position to be selected? Maybe not this time because we don't think we're there yet, but how do we put ourselves in a position to become a tier 1 organization next year or next season or whatever it is?
Yeah, and that pretty much is, I guess, limit, or the main driving factor would be the amount of money that you can put into becoming into that tier 1 area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess it's pretty interesting because I was talking with a couple of our players for League of Legends at UL, and I was watching a little bit of the scouting grounds recently, and whenever I did a deep dive into the amateur system that was in place last year, it's pretty interesting to see, just like, not so much the low, I guess in a way it's like the low level of output that you look at, right? You have 4 teams of 5, so 20 players overall. So in the entire circuit, the FACEIT circuit from last year, you pretty much just had all these different circuits or all these different tournaments in place for circuit points, and then you have your playoffs, and then the two teams from there, their players are guaranteed to go into the scouting grounds, and then the rest of the 10 come from their predetermined process. But it's pretty interesting now. So to go into the overhaul to the Academy amateur format. So January and February, you're going to have your shortened Academy season for LCS. So you have your top 6 go into your proving grounds. Team 7 and 8 go to your first Tier 1 tournament. 9 and 10 go to your second Tier 1, and then you have your last qualifier. Then during the Academy season, that means the Tier 2 tournaments. I think you guys are still in the application process, right, for this?
Right. We are hopeful, expecting to be Tier 2 again. So this is kind of what we have our eyes on now at this point.
Right. And that would mean that if you're a Tier 2 tournament, that means at least one of your teams that participates one of the teams that participates in your tournament would make it onto that first Tier 1 tournament. So Academy pretty much just has obviously they'll have the largest market share of the teams that are in the tournament, or I guess based off of placement. And then you have amateur teams trying to build up to take on I guess these Academy teams as well. And then you'll have 16 teams overall that would make it into the proving ground tournament. And that's pretty exciting to see. You'll have more teams in there. It'll be higher stakes. You'll have higher stakes all across the board, especially in the tournaments for Tier 2 tournaments, Tier 1 tournaments, first, second, and third. The first, second, and third, I guess, tournaments for Tier 1. And it's all going to be interesting to see how competitive the scene will get now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I think what I love the most about this new format, first of all, we're all extremely happy that to see these changes. Whether you're a fan of professional, academy, amateur, or maybe a high-level player hoping to be there one day, like the fact that Riot is paying attention to the needs and wants of the players and fans, like to see the changes made between the seasons like this is really promising, and we're all excited about it. What I love the most is that you kind of once again have this path for teams as a whole to earn their spot into professional league, into the proving grounds. Because back in the day, before Academy was well established, and you basically had essentially teams competing in the client, not in tournaments or anything, but climbing a ladder, they would qualify to eventually earn a spot in LCS. And that, although that system wasn't great, it was cool how you could basically have a homegrown team earning their way into professional league. And the scene has grown a lot since then, and it's really cool to see that similar opportunities are opening up again with this new format, where a true amateur team can make it all the way to the proving grounds and not just like make it to scouting grounds, hope some of their players get picked up, inevitably split apart, inevitably replace people. I think that was a less than ideal end game for a lot of the amateur teams, players, and orgs. So I like this new format a lot for providing a more cohesive end goal for these players and teams.
Definitely. Especially with, I guess, the amount of information that's available. Whenever I was looking at all of for League of Legends for amateur, it was crazy how much digging I guess I had to do just to see just where the path comes from. For all these different teams. And I can imagine that unless you're entrenched into it, and from somebody that's looking on the outside like I am, to preface this, I've not good at League at all. And a lot of my learning of League of Legends was just pretty much just through talking to different people that I know, and trying to keep up with, I guess, the professional scene as much as I could, right?
Right.
But whenever you go lower into it, I feel like unless you're just entrenched into it, I guess anecdotally, I was big into the Overwatch League. I was big into watching it, and then I I try to keep it with contenders, and I see like Open Division because I know, I guess, a couple of people that have gone through that system, and it's pretty interesting just to see. I guess there's so much passion for wanting to build out those areas, and it's great to see that there's a true path to it. Now the next thing that needs to be done is to make sure all that information is being translated, like who I guess is would have to be done at the top of it, right? But it's just saying that these are your different qualifiers, these are different things that are happening, and this is where you can follow it. And that sort of popular those sort of eyes just to see that, I guess, because this is pretty much the pipeline going into the professionals, is just to see like this information is accessible and this information is viewable to the casual audience.
Oh yeah, for sure. And easy to understand, easy to digest is just as important. Because it's one thing to be available, but if it's impossible to understand or too complicated or too complex, then it doesn't really do any good.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to, I guess, conceptualize in a way that you have like all these different leagues that are trying to, I guess, in a way do similar things, right? You're trying to have trying to show like these are different amateur leagues that are going on. How do you distinguish your, outside of pricing, of course, how do you distinguish like your amateur league from all the other ones?
It's got to come down to just reputation and community. We really truly started as a grassroots league organization, and like I mentioned earlier, our foundation is in the people and the players who join the Discord, talk, play games together. A lot of those people really like Risen, and not everybody sticks around, and that's okay, but we've become really well known in this bubble of an amateur scene. And I'm not just talking about like these high level semi-pro players. I mean like anywhere from our silver to gold, platinum, diamond players as well. A lot of people really like Risen and really like the community and what we've done, in that it's spread so that people know about us, other players, other leagues know about us, a lot just from word of mouth. And it's allowed, it's the catalyst that's provided a lot of growth for us in more tangible things like Twitch followers and Twitter followers and viewers and stuff like that. And that to me is kind of the pride of what we've done, is that when you ask people about Risen and their experience playing in Risen and the community, most people genuinely enjoy it and they like what we're doing, and that's something they'll share with their friends or share with other people. And that's something that I'm really proud of. And it's definitely a big part of the reason why we're able to do what we do today with these amateur semi-pro leagues. It's all built off of this community and slowly accumulating a reputation and credentials and making mistakes and learning from them. That's given us the tools to be where we are today. And I guess to answer your question, I think that's what differentiates us, is like at this point in the amateur league, almost everybody knows about Risen because of that. Our reputation precedes us, and I think for us that's a very good thing.
What's interesting is the growing collegiate presence that you have. I guess I haven't done a deep dive into all of the different amateur leagues, but I've seen that like Illinois State, Winthrop, UT Dallas, Grandview, LSU were all in your league this season. So how did how do you become, I guess, so with the new formats, I feel like
Mhm.
collegiate would get left out a little bit, right? Unless you have like the ones that are really focused, like a Maryville or
Yeah.
like an Illinois State, or teams like that
Mhm.
that want to go through the amateur system to be able to build up. But now, it, what does that pipeline really look like for collegiate?
It's hard to answer with a lot of certainty because it's yet to be done. This is all new to us. So just kind of what we expect to happen would be something along the lines of collegiate players are now going to be at that point where their end goal is recognition, either by other colleges, like other universities like Maryville, NCSU, that have a more clear path to pro. Either their goal is to be recognized by a university like that, or it's to um, be recognized individually as a player and find their way onto an academy team or into scouting grounds through their personal growth as a player while playing for these universities. Or like, I guess it's hard to say school like LSU is smaller, but like you get what I'm saying, smaller in the scene. That has to be the new goal for some of those players, is to either transition into a university with a clearer path, or to use their experience to grow as an individual player.
Right,
I think that's what it's got to be.
and that path would pretty much just be, say, if you had somebody that was really good, right, at the top of their game, and some universities don't even have varsity teams, for example. So the easiest path for them would just be go through an go through the amateur system, go through your tier two, and to build up through there. So
Mm.
it's going to be a pretty interesting dynamic about how collegiate's going to be built now, for those that are focused uh, on League of Legends teams, focused on building a national program for League of Legends, compared to everyone else that is just using it more as a marketing tool, and then just go through the Collegiate League of Legends season.
Right, right.
Um, I guess moving forward a little bit with Valorant, just to touch upon that, how has the process of building your amateur league gone? I guess for a new game.
It is. Uh, it's difficult. It's not easy. There's only two things we have going into an expansion like into Valorant, um, which is not our first attempt by any means. Our two things, I would say, one is like we have a trustworthy staff, an experienced staff, and we have some experience managing leagues. Obviously, not a Valorant league or an FPS league, but we've got experience and we've got some name recognition that helps a lot. Um, Unfortunately, we're not a cash cow where we can use Risen League of Legends to like fund cash prizes that'll give us the same kind of recognition. We don't have that as an option, so it's basically just using our name and our experience and trying to translate changes and mistakes we've made in the League of Legends front and translating that to the Valorant front. Or like we tried team fight tactics and considered other things like Hearthstone at some points. But all you can really do is do this rough kind of guesstimation. It's like, well, this kind of worked for League of Legends League. Will this work for Valorant? Or like League of Legends players weren't a fan of this format, but does it work for this game? And it's a challenge, and we do have a head start on other, rising Valorant leagues, but it's by no means like guaranteed success. It's still a big risk and a lot of work, and there's gonna be mistakes and a lot of learning required. But luckily, we've equipped ourselves with a lot of really great staff or tournament organizers, admins, however you want to say it, who are able to handle those challenges and create a great league from their experience.
By mistakes that you made in the past, what do you mean by that?
I think Risen Esports, mostly speaking of League of Legends, which we've been doing for 3 years now, we've made more mistakes than any other amateur League of Legends league, any other grassroots League of Legends league. We've made more mistakes than them. And that's the main reason why we're as successful, as big, and as fluid as we are today, because every time we made a mistake, it gave us the opportunity to learn from it and grow from it, whether it's a bad league format or poor criteria for ranking players or scheduling. We used to schedule leagues throughout November, December, and it took us 2 years of holiday reschedules and no-shows to realize, hey, maybe we should take November, December off. Stuff like that. Mistakes that on an organizational level, on a moderation level, how we interact with our community. We've messed up a lot, but because we've messed up a lot, we've also learned a lot. And I think that's what allows us to, or has allowed us to grow so much and also be more resilient to mistakes in the future. Like if we launch a new, and the wording here is going to get confusing. If we launch a new League of Legends league and it totally falls flat, players don't like it, it's not the end of us, because we have such a strong foundation as far as our community and our experience that allows us to bounce back, shrug it off, readjust, or retarget. And it's all because of 3 years of making mistakes that's allowed us to do that.
In terms of, I guess, the work that you guys have put in for League of Legends and then transferring that over to Valorant, where do you think the scene overall is going to go? Obviously, with North America League, it's completely defined, right? But since Valorant's so new, there's I guess not obviously it's new, so there's not that big of a rigid structure in terms of scheduling that you would have for like LCS or for the new amateur format. So where do you think that would fall for a game like Valorant down the road?
Really, we just have to hope that there needs to be some discrimination between player skill, like a reliable rank system for individuals and or for groups of individuals or teams. Because without a reliable rank system, you're going to scare away all of the amateurs, the noobs like me who can't play worth anything, getting scared off by the high level players, the semi pros, ex CS:GO players, whatever it might be, who are going to shoot up to the top and dominate. And along with a rank system like that allows us to kind of separate and foster different types of players, you also have to hope that some sort of infrastructure is developed by Riot, similar to the League of Legends Path to Pro, that provides an end goal for those serious players. Because that's where the money in these leagues tends to come from, is the players and organizations who are vying for a career or a future playing at a high level, who are willing to invest time, money, sponsorships, assets into growing these leagues. We even without that, we are totally capable of kind of just staying afloat with lower level free leagues, stuff like that. We can manage that, but if we're talking about growth, it's got to come from Riot or some other large third party that's providing an end goal to these top level players and organizations.
I guess we can end on this. I'm looking at the time right now. For Risen Esports, looking at 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years from now, where do you see you guys being?
Oh,
Obviously,
It,
I'm not going to ask you to predict like how these
yeah,
formats are going to change, like almost literally overnight, right?
yeah.
But in terms of what your personal goals are, and what your league goals are, what do you expect to happen, or for
So
yourselves?
I think I can answer this. As an organization, especially with this recent news, with the improvements to Path to Pro and opportunities for third party tournaments like our own, there is a very difficult leap of faith into like that next level of investment and monetization where it's like, oh, we're not talking about throwing a few $100s at a tournament here or paying out $1 or $2 grand to a few teams. It's like we're talking about thousands of dollars of investment and tens and thousands of prize money. There is a lot of work, a lot of frightening work and steps that have to be taken if we want to pursue growing to that next level league. If we want to pursue moving into a tier 1 league, or if Riot once again shifts up to where tier 2 leagues are expected to, have a lot of monetization and higher production and stuff like that. There's a lot of unknown territory in the growth that it takes to get to that level. So as an organization, we have to make that decision of like, what kind of chances, where do we want to be? What kind of chances do we have to take to be there? And of course, how do we figure out how to do it? That's got to be the vision for the org over the next year or two. For me personally, my favorite aspect of Amateur League of Legends is the fact that it's amateur. For me, it's all about providing a competitive home for the players who aren't going pro and may have no intention of doing it. I live and I do everything I do for Risen, for the silver players, the gold players, platinum, the diamond players. That's what got me hooked on Risen in the first place. That's what got me into the amateur scene. And I want to continue to see that aspect of our league and other similar leagues. I want to continue to see that grow and the community involved with them and the interaction between different leagues communities. Because to me, that's really special. And it's not something I ever want Risen to lose sight of, is that true amateur aspect that got us to where we are today.